Good afternoon, colleagues. Welcome to our delayed media briefing. Our humble apologies for that. We're not going to waste any time. M.E.C is just going to read out the statement as prepared.
Good afternoon. Our apologies for the delay. We're hoping to get the affected taxi associations here. And we were joking earlier on that taxis are always late, but they are not here. So I don't think it's fair that I keep you waiting because this was scheduled for 2:30. It's over an hour already. So thank you. So thank you for your patience and for bearing with us. I want to announce today that I intend extending on Monday, the 14th of August 2017, the notice closing the 5 taxi ranks and routes linked to violence, unrest and instability in the Soweto area for a further 3 months. Remember that on the 13th of July, we had published a notice to suspend 5 taxi ranks or operations on 5 taxi ranks and routes affecting both Wata and Dube. So it is my intention now to further extend it for a period of 3 months. I intend to extend the extraordinary measures instituted on the 13th of July, which are aimed at stabilizing public transport services in Soweto for a further period of 3 months, as there is no agreement between Wata and Dube aimed at normalizing the situation. The affected taxi ranks and routes were shut down by myself in mid-July due to ongoing violent conflicts between the Witwatersrand African Taxi Association, Wata, and the Nancefield Dube West Taxi Association, Dube, which negatively affected thousands of commuters. To date, I have not received any final assurances from the leadership of the 2 taxi bodies about restoring peaceful operations in the area. When we made the decision to close the ranks and to stop all operations on the affected route, I have indicated that I want an immediate removal of armed security companies on all the affected taxi routes and ranks allocated to the 2 associations. I wanted a public commitment from the 2 associations to end all forms of violence and intimidation. I've also asked, because Wata has appealed against the ruling of the provincial regulatory entity, because in May, the provincial regulatory entity gave a final ruling on who should be on which routes. But Wata has lodged an appeal with the Transport Appeals Tribunal at a national level. So pending the outcome of those proceedings, I had asked the 2 associations to abide by the provisions and the conditions of the existing operating licenses. And I don't have an assurance that they want to abide by the existing operating licenses. And then we had also asked them to assist with and to facilitate effective law enforcement, that the 2 different taxi associations and the taxis that are actually running on those 2 routes should have different color stickers so that they can be easily identified by the law enforcement officials. To date, we haven't got agreement on these conditions, and the existing notice will expire at midnight on Sunday. So I am announcing my intention. It is not a final decision, but it is my intention to further extend the suspension notice for a further 3 months. Obviously, this will have to be published in the Provincial Gazette, which we intend doing on Monday morning. The 2 associations are unable to agree to these conditions, which warrants urgent consideration of the extension of the notice of suspension of minibus taxi services on the affected routes. I'm hoping that between now and Sunday, the leadership of the 2 associations can come to their senses and can agree to the conditions that I have set out so that the situation can be normalized. Failing which, we will proceed with the shutting down of the 5 taxi ranks and the routes for a further 3 months. Thank you very much.
M.E.C, any questions?
M.E.C, my name is Nancefield from SABC TV News. I just have questions of clarity. Firstly, both taxi associations are not here. Why is that? That's the first question. The second question is, do you have an idea of how many taxi bosses or taxi drivers have been killed in this entire violence, specifically along these routes? And if you're going to suspend the routes for a further 3 months, what is going to happen to the commuters? Who's going to be servicing the commuters for the duration of that 3 months while the routes are suspended? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Nick Lely. I'm from College was in News ABC. I thought there's only two associations that are involved. It's Wata and Dube. Now I heard you mentioning 5 taxi associations. Taxi stations or
Taxi ranks.
Taxi ranks. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. And then, if you can explain, in your opinion, why can't these associations reach an agreement? That's question number 1, right? And number 2, can you elaborate more on this appeal made by Wata? Thank you.
Hi M.E.C, my name is Sitakani Mabweze from Eyewitness News. In the last briefing you said that you were barring the 2 associations from any violence and you would be keeping an eye on that. Could you just share if there was any clashes between the 2 during that time? Thank you.
Okay, so let's take the last question. Yes, we've had fairly significant law enforcement deployment for the last 4 weeks on the affected routes and at the 5 taxi ranks. In total, there's been up to 140 South African Police Service personnel, Gauteng traffic personnel, Gauteng traffic police, and the JMPD, including some officials from our department who have been on duty all the time on those routes. And thankfully, there's been no incidents of violence during the past 4 weeks. What has happened, however, is that a total of 33 vehicles have been impounded. Remember, this was a total shutdown of all operations on those routes. Of course, a number of taxi drivers tried their luck. Their vehicles, they were arrested. 33 vehicles have been impounded. A number of them have already appeared, have been prosecuted, and the normal processes have unfolded. Those vehicles remain in our possession as impounded vehicles, and in due course, after having paid whatever fines the court imposes, etc., we will release them. So those operations continue. In the first week, the police had also seized 3 R1 rifles, 1 shotgun, and ammunition. These have gone for testing to see whether they were involved in any of the violence, etc. And it's now a normal criminal police investigation. So the police will be able to give you further update on where that particular process is. But in terms of actual violence, there has not been, and I think we are grateful for that. We have had discussions with the officials from our department, the SAPS, the Gauteng Traffic Police, had met with the leadership of the 2 associations on August 9, which was on Wednesday, to try and see whether we can get an agreement with them and understanding around these conditions. And we thought that by now we would have had the agreements concluded and signed between the 2 associations, and that's what we were really waiting for. But I think that it's quite clear that there are no agreements. And I don't think that the leadership of the associations understand the gravity of the situation, and therefore I am announcing that I intend to extend this shutdown for further 3 months. If this can knock some sense into them over the next day or 2, and they come back with a signed agreement which can be made available publicly, that they abide by these conditions, I can review my decision and allow the normalization of operations on Monday morning. failing which we will shut down for a further 3 months. What will happen to commuters? I think we are not insensitive to the inconvenience that this has caused to commuters in the affected areas. We want to thank them for their patience, for their understanding, and for their support. You will remember that on the eve of the initial closure on the 13th of July, we held a very, very successful public meeting in the affected area. The hall was packed. We explained the reasons for our decision, and I think there was significant support from a number of stakeholders and members of the public and commuters. The CPFs, the various organizations that were represented, some of the religious people had expressed support for the decision. We will have to go back. I mean, it's quite clear. We will have to go back to the communities to explain why we intend doing this. But I'm hoping that that will not be necessary. If the parties can sign and give me a signed agreement abiding by these conditions by Sunday, I will review this particular intention that I have. Failing which, I think we have to act in the public interest. I cannot have a situation where security companies armed with R1 rifles stand at taxi ranks and say that they will see that nothing happens here. That is not their responsibility. In fact, we are insisting that more and more, we are insisting that taxi ranks should actually become gun-free zones. Their job is to transport people from their homes, from the points of origin to the point of destination. And it doesn't have to be done with guns. So this is part of the broader discussion that we are having with the taxi associations about declaring taxi ranks as gun-free zones. So I'm hoping that there will be a change of heart on the part of the leadership and the membership of the two associations over the next day or two, so that we can prevent the further shutdown of these taxi ranks and roads.
And see if you could just give us clarity on the issue of why the associations are marching and the number of people who've been killed.
Yes. The associations, I mean, we had invited them in the hope that they will abide by these conditions. As I said, discussions had reached quite had gone to a point of almost conclusion. But if in the end the parties don't want to give me a written commitment, I don't want a verbal commitment from them. I want them to declare themselves that there will be peaceful operations, that there will be no violence, that they will withdraw the security companies, and they will act in the interest of the commuters and the people of Soweto. If I don't get that commitment, I can't have a situation where Monday morning I allow the taxis to run and then there's a shootout. I can't allow that situation. So if they give us the commitment, I think we can call a press conference tomorrow or on Sunday and take a different decision. But failing which, I have every intention of shutting down the roads for another 3 months. I can give you the figures, as I indicated in the original statement we made on the 13th of July. The police are dealing with 13 cases of murder, attempted murder, assault, grievous, GBH, intimidation, damage to property, and these are serious cases. And I can't allow this to continue. Ordinary innocent commuters have been caught in the crossfire. Right next to the water offices, there's a crèche. These young little kids are exposed to gunfire. When they're going to school, they're going to the crèche to be taken care of by the caregivers, and they must be exposed to gunfire. I can't allow that to continue. Gauteng, there must be a sense of order and safety and security in this province. But the law of the jungle cannot prevail in this particular instance.
Can I take you back and see who has the right to use those routes that you closed? Is it Wata or is it Nanduwe?
No, it's not a question of who has the rights. There are 5 taxi ranks that have been allocated to Nanduwe. The operating, excuse me, the operating license is very clear. During 5 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock in the morning, which is the peak hour, they have what is called binding rights there. They have the right to load and offload passengers there, and then transport to their destination, which in ordinary sense is towards Johannesburg. The license of WATA says that they can use that road. It's the same road that goes to Johannesburg. So they load up at Green Village, the taxi rank and around Green Village. That's where they load. But outside of the peak areas, outside of 5 a.m. to 8 a.m., their operating license says that they can load and offload at these 5 taxi ranks. So if they're driving past, let's say you've got a 15-seater vehicle, you've got 13 passengers that you picked up at Green Village. Now you're coming down and you come to, what's the taxi then? Maketa? Maketa.
Maketa, yeah.
Yeah, at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You see there are some passengers there. There's no Dube vehicles there. You can pull in, load all those passengers and take them to Johannesburg if that's the destination. What has been happening is, in the last few years at least, which is the source of this conflict, is that WATA has actually been not just starting in Green Village, but they've been bringing in their taxis during the peak hours and loading and actually encroaching on the turf and territory of Nancefield. Then on their own, they agreed to what is called a 50-50. Outside of their operating licenses, for the sake of peace, they agreed on a 50-50. So if you come 5 o'clock in the morning, there are 20 taxis there. 10 will be WATA's taxis, 10 will be Nanduwe's taxis. But in the last year or two, that system, their own arrangement, that's not the arrangement that the department has facilitated. That has been their own arrangement. That has become a source of conflict, and violent conflict at that. And every effort on our part to try and facilitate, conflict resolution, mediation, everything has failed. In the end, the matter had gone to court. And the court ruled that in terms of the National Land Transport Act, we have something called a Section 25 hearing and a Section 79 hearing. The provincial regulatory entity held the Section 25 hearing. That's more like a mediation process, to hear the parties and to try and reconcile the differences. That yielded nothing. Then, since late last year up till May this year, the regulatory entity held a formal Section 79 hearing and made a finding. And the finding was of is that the 5 taxi ranks should be used by Nandube exclusively, because that's the original operating license. And that WATA should simply load wherever they're supposed to start loading. As it said, the starting point is Green Village, and they should take their passengers straight to Johannesburg. Now, of course, WATA is not happy with that decision. And you've heard Mr. Mapalala and others say, no, but this is since 1972. Now, I cannot go by what happened in 1972 or 1984 or 1994 or 2000. I have to go by what is on the operating license. Okay. So if they can't agree, and WATA has now taken the responsible step of saying, okay, we aggrieved with the ruling of the plea. We're now lodging an appeal, which they are entitled to do in terms of the procedures and the law, and they have lodged the appeal. But if the parties now, once you lodge an appeal, that means the ruling of plea is suspended. Right? And that's the written notice that they've got from the Transport Appeals Tribunal, that your ruling is suspended until the matter is heard. So the TAT will have its first hearing on the matter of will initiate the proceedings on the 23rd of August. So we are telling since Wednesday we've been telling the two parties that whilst these processes are now unfolding, can you agree to these 6 conditions? And you must abide by your existing operating license conditions. But if they can't agree to that, then I can't open the bank. It's as simple as that. Why would any association not want to abide by its own operating license conditions? Because it's very clear, it's not a very complicated matter. So I'm hoping that over the next day or so, sense will prevail and an agreement will be reached. And I want it in mind. I don't want verbal agreements because that's the part of the problem. If these things are done in an informal way, and then it's my word against this word, and then you don't know what is happening after. Because there are just too many voices and too many words that come in. So we've put these simple conditions to it. Abide by these conditions, and we will open the ranks on Monday morning. If not, then I will follow the due process, and I'll shut down these ranks for the next 3 months.
Oscar Masia from Joseph M. Just for point of clarity, M.E.C, what are those conditions? Can you repeat them for us?
We will give it, we'll send it, we'll email everything to you. Paul?
Independent newspapers. M.E.C, I just wanted to find out, this 50-50 agreement, when was it reached? My second question is, if they abide by the original routes, does it mean that Nandue must now occupy and take control of the 5 taxi ranks, and water should operate from Green Village and normally load and offload if there are no Nandue taxis?
No, the word is not control. It's not their control.
Okay.
That's a public facility. Let's take a formal taxi rank. That will be under the control of the city of Johannesburg, for example.
Okay.
Because it's property of the city or of some municipality. Some of these taxi ranks are quite informal. If you've been there, you'll see it is just a vacant spot next to one of the garages there. It's not a formalized taxi rank. But I think we all understand, in terms of the operating licenses, that at peak hours, Nandue will rank there. That's the normal way in which they understand. They will rank there, they will offload their load their passengers. That's their starting point. So, it's rank number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. They've got their vehicles and they know that's their point of origin. So they load there and then they take their passengers. Now the 50-50 arrangement, there are a number of these informal arrangements between different associations throughout the province. But that's not something that is within the official operating licenses. And what we're saying as a department, that once a matter is on appeal, we can only enforce what is the official operating license. The original operating license is what we can enforce. We can't enforce what have been arrangements that were decided upon by somebody, because that's not on the operating license. So, this is not something new, Baldwin. I mean, they're sitting with these operating licenses for maybe 20, 30 years. It's not something that they're not familiar with. All of them. Every operator there, you got a printed license, it's very detailed. It says you start here, you turn left in this street, you turn right in that street, you drive so far, you turn left in this street. It is as specific as that. So there can't be any confusion about it. And it is very clear that WATA does not have the right to rank at the 5 taxi ranks. So that is what we will enforce.
Nick?
Right, we're still on the podium. Let me see. What's the latest regarding Uber and M.E.C taxi, meter taxis?
No, that is not for discussion today. Because I know your story tomorrow will be something else.
Any further questions, colleagues? That brings us to the end of the media briefing. Those who like to have one-on-one with M.E.C are more than welcome to that.